Hello, my name's Kyle Harding. Welcome to training for the enhancements included in the Oracle Utilities Work and Asset Cloud Service 21B release. In this session, we'll focus on the employee qualification work that was completed. This work provides additional functionality to help you manage your human resources and any related required qualifications or training for an employee, and provides you with the tools to help you maintain that compliance. For the capabilities covered in this training, we'll initially provide an overview, followed by a more detailed explanation of how you can use the functionality and what business value it brings to the table. Then we'll walk you through a quick demonstration, and finally, we'll explain what you need to consider before enabling these features in your business and within your business processes, and what you need to know to set them up. The employee qualification capabilities will provide the customer with the ability to create a library of course or qualification content that can then be associated to an employee record. This allows the customer to track and maintain required trainings completed by each employee required to do their job, and the data captured with each record helps them drive and maintain compliance for each employee. At the employee or supervisor level, we provide functionality to automate the sending of proactive reminders to the employee whose course or qualification is expiring, as well as to the supervisor for any of the employees they are responsible for. Typically, an administrator defines the library of courses or qualifications that will be available to associate to an employee record. The status of the course record drives availability within the value list in the training information zone on the employee record. The course valid period defines the amount of time, in months, the qualification is valid for on an employee record who completes the course. The valid period is used to calculate the expiration date on the employee record when the course or qualification is completed and associated to the employee record. The employee or supervisor notification field allows the administrator to toggle on or off system notifications to the employee supervisor prior to the expiration of the course qualification that's been associated to the employee's record. If it is toggled on, notification is sent based on the lead days defined on the course record. The Training Information Zone on the main tab of the employee record provides the ability to associate training courses completed by the employee and displays their effective dates, expiration dates, and notification status for each course completed by the employee. The business value of the employee qualification enhancement work includes streamlining and automating regulatory compliance activities required to maintain the currency of those records within the system. Once a certification or qualification has been achieved by an employee, automated proactive communication ensures that the employee and the supervisor continues to maintain those qualifications and the validity of those qualifications over time. In this demonstration, we'll show you how you can set up and use employee qualifications to enhance your business. This demonstration will be broken up into two parts. In the first part, we'll use the extendable lookup functionality to open a course record and examine the different attributes associated to that course record. And in the second portion of the demonstration, we'll focus on using those course records and associating them to an existing employee record. So let's get going. So from the home page, we're going to use the search menu to find the extendable lookup functionality. We begin to type it in. You'll see the value list that pops up. We'll have extendable lookup right at the top. So let's click on that. When we click on that, we land on the lookup query page, the extendable lookup query page, and all of the course records are stored in the course business object. So let's search for the course business object. You can see the official name of the business object is W1 course. Let's open that by clicking on the description. Once we open that, you can see we have a few different course records that have been defined. What we will be using for this demonstration is using the 2020 NERC codes. So let's open that by clicking on the Edit button. I also have some other functions available. I could duplicate the record. I could delete the record. I could also use some of the other actions that are available from the page, such as add, search, bookmark, or refresh. If I wanted to add a new record, I would click on add, and I would walk through the different attributes associated to a course record. For this demo, I'm going to use an existing record and just walk through and describe what each of the attributes are responsible for. So the first attribute we see is the course ID. So this is the value that's associated to this particular course, the ID associated to this course, and it's using the 2020 NERC codes. The next three fields are the description fields. So the primary description is the value that will show up on the drop-down list over on the employee record within the training zone when, as an HR admin, I'm trying to associate a course record to an employee record. I also have a detailed description that provides additional details related to this course. So it might include things like some of the different subject areas that might be included when this course is completed or part of the course agenda, or as part of the course curriculum, I should say. The status field drives the presentation on that value list over in the training zone. So only active course records would be available to select for that HR admin when they're associating course records to the employee record. The course valid period is a period of time that a particular course is valid for. So the system uses that valid period to calculate the expiration date when this particular course is associated to an employee record. Right? It takes the effective date of the course, adds the valid period, and comes up with the expiration date. And the final four fields are related to some of the system communications that can automatically happen as courses are expiring. So the two personas that can be notified are the employee and the supervisor. So the employee is the one that has the course associated to their employee record. The supervisor is the person who is the supervisor for that particular employee. We also provide, as part of this functionality, the ability to have different notification intervals, right? With the goal being, it provides the employee with enough forewarning that they have time to go and recertify to maintain their compliance with the requirement that they have this record or this course or requirement as part of their employee record. So in this particular case, the employee would be notified 90 days prior to the expiration of using the 2020 NERC code course on their employee record. The supervisor would be notified 60 days prior to that expiration. So that wraps up some of those values on the course record. Now let's make our way over onto the employee record. So we need to make our way to the employee application. So let's close this course record. We're going to use that search menu again. Let's begin to type in employee until it pops up. Let's select employee from the list, and we'll land on the employee query page. For the demo, we're going to use my employee record. So let's type in the last name, click search, and open my employee record by clicking on it. And once we get that open, we're going to click on the edit record action right here. And we're going to locate the training information zone in the maintenance window that comes up. So let's scroll down. This is the training information zone that I'm referring to. If we click on the plus, we're going to add a new row to that section. And from that newly inserted row, we're going to open the value list by clicking on the arrow. And what you'll see is the list of active courses being presented. Again, remember, these are only active courses. And select the course that we wish to add to the employee record. So we're going to add that 2020 NERC code course to my employee record. When I add that, you'll see a couple of things that happened. The effective date on the newly inserted record defaults to today's date, and then the expiration date is automatically calculated if the course record has a course valid period defined. In this case, it does. So we use today's date, we use the valid period, we see it's valid for 12 months. So it automatically calculates that expiration date for me. If the course had been completed on a previous date, the operator can enter that previous date, and the expiration date will be automatically recalculated. One thing to note, right, future effective dates aren't allowed. So it can be today or earlier, but it can't be today or into the future, or it can't be into the future, I should say. So once we've done that, let's save that record. And as we make our way back to the main tab on the employee record, you can see in that training information zone, the new record is displayed. That display includes the employee notified and supervisor notified fields. So if we had approached expiration for either the employee or the supervisor, which was that interval that's been defined, in this case, on our NERC code record, the employee would be notified 90 days prior to the expiration, and the supervisor would be notified 60 days prior to the expiration. If that had occurred, then we would see true in those fields instead of false. And that just is the indication that that notification has automatically been pushed out by the system to the employee. The goal being that we're giving the employee ample amount of time to recertify to maintain compliance with the requirement that they have this particular course or training record on their employee record in relation to the job that they perform. One last thing to note is because of the sensitive nature of some of this training information and the regulatory compliance implications, we want to maintain data integrity. And because of that, what we do on the log tab is we capture any changes that are made are written to that log file. So if we click on the log tab up at the top, you'll see all of the interactions that have happened on this employee record related to that training information zone are captured, including the date, time, the details, the status and reason if it was captured, the user had done it, the type of log entry that had been made, whether it was done by the system or created as the result of an action, and then any related object information that might be relevant. So that wraps up our demonstration. And now let's talk a little bit about some additional information related to employee qualifications. For customers who've already been using employee qualification or courses in releases prior to 21B, please be aware of the following. With the release of 21B, the scheduled date and completion date attributes are suppressed in the extendable lookup UI. They do appear for course records entered prior to the release of 21B. For existing employee qualification records as part of the upgrade to 21B, we needed a method to determine the effective date for those existing entries. This is the logic that we have adopted to determine effective date for employee training records that existed at the time of upgrade to 21B. The system gathers two dates, one from the course record and one from the employee record, for comparison in order to determine which one to use in the calculation of the effective date. For the course record, the completion date will be used if it is populated. However, if it is not populated, the scheduled date will be used. Note that prior to 21B, the scheduled date was a required field. For the employee record, the hire date will be used if populated. However, if it is not populated, we will use the creation date of the employee record. Once the two dates have been determined, the logic is set to use whichever one is later to set the effective date on the employee course record. Please note, following the upgrade, the expiration date on the existing employee course records will be calculated when the employee record is opened, edited, and saved. In this section, we'll provide implementation considerations and setup instructions for employee qualifications. This feature is delivered disabled, and the customer must take specific actions before use by end users. These actions are detailed on the next slide. Access to the feature is granted via user group, user definition. The expectation is that HR personnel will typically be maintaining this information on the employee record. Finally, a review of HR compliance business processes related to employee training, qualification, course records is in order, as we have enabled the ability to calculate important dates, track expiration of those dates, and automatically notify employees and supervisor of their impending expiration. This feature is delivered disabled. The customer must take the actions specified on this slide prior to use by end users. For existing course records that the customer will continue to use, the newly added fields need to be updated with appropriate values. A second consideration for the upgrading customer is that now is the time to consider consolidation of multiple course records that might exist for the same course, where the only difference was the scheduled and completion dates on the individual existing records. Now is the time to replace them with a single course record without the scheduled or completion dates completed to reduce your maintenance cost. In order to do that, you can take the following steps. Set up a new course record without a scheduled or completion date. Update the course records which point to the original course for the specified time period on the employee record, and deactivate the old course record. Please note that you don't have to do the above if you have only one course record for each course. From this release forward, the dates on the course records will be ignored when a course is added to an employee record. Access to this feature is granted with access to the employee record. Expectation is that HR personnel will typically be maintaining this information on the employee record. On the course record, notifications can be enabled for the employee as well as the supervisor. When enabled, the lead days defined on the record determine the timing of when the email is sent. Here are a few examples of the content of the emails that will be generated by the system. At the top is the email that is sent to the employee, and below is the email that is sent to the supervisor. The email going to the supervisor references the employee whose course or qualification is expiring. We anticipate that customers will want to tailor the content of these messages. In order to do that, they would open the Messages app and fetch the message they wish to modify using the message category and the message number provided on the slide. Once the message has been fetched in the Messages app, click the Edit button, and using the same substitution variables as provided in the original message, where %1 equals course description and %2 equals course expiration date, use the override message text to specify your custom message. The example above is showing the employee email provided out of the box versus one that has been configured using the steps provided on the previous slides. This concludes this presentation. Thank you for listening. You can easily pause and rewind any of the slides if you require additional time take in the detail.